Hello and welcome to Public Conscience and the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOG. I am Chidezi Obunaya with Esther Bassey.
Thanks for joining us. Please watch us on our live stream on Facebook at Official PRIMOG if it is convenient for you. The spelling of PRIMOG is PRIMORG.
The focus of today's program is on the imperative of integrity in Nigeria's development. We'll also talk about Nigerians who are displaying integrity in their daily lives. But let me tell you that Public Conscience is a production of PRIMOG and it's supported by the MacArthur Foundation.
Well, then, a famous definition of integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Everyone in Nigeria agrees that the deficiency of integrity is a major stumbling block to our collective progress. Integrity, accountability, and transparency, among others, are values that forms the development or the fundamental bedrock of a nation's development. These values constitute principles of good governance and development. For decades, Nigerians have seen the concept of integrity being eroded, leading to a range of unethical behaviors that propels corrupt practices such as embezzlement, bribery, disregard for the rule of law, and abuse of contracting and procurement processes, among others.
Few months ago, a member of the National Youth Service Corps NYXC 7 in Akwa Ibom State, Ojeleye Joseph, a batch C Stream 2 Corps member, proved that there are still many Nigerians with integrity and good character because despite the challenging times, he returned a misplaced purse containing cash, automatic teller machine cards, popularly called ATM cards.
Obviously, while a lot of Nigerians struggle with the issue of integrity both in private and public establishments, it is refreshing to know that few are doing what is right. Today's program seeks to celebrate Nigerians doing the right thing when no one is looking, while reminding citizens of the responsibilities of building an honest society. Another way to entrench integrity and build a better society is for citizens to hold leaders to account.
Absolutely. For you out there, you may be a taxi driver, an artisan, trader, or employee at a private or public office. How honest are you? That is a big question. How are you affected by the declining integrity in the society? Where do we start in changing the narrative? Should it be from citizens or leaders who are up there at the top? Do you think economic hardship will impact on citizens' integrity? Looking at what we are going through in Nigeria, how best can the government promote integrity and better fight corruption?
Well, be ready to join us on phone or through phone and text messages during this conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 0902-265-6167. That is 0902-265-6167. Please indicate your name and your location when sending your message. This number is for messages only.
Please begin to send your messages as soon as possible to 09022656167. That is 09022656167. We'll give out the numbers to call shortly.
If you just joined us, the focus is on the importance of integrity in Nigeria's development. The spotlight is also on the integrity deed of a member of the National Youth Service Corps, that's the NYSC, serving in Akwa Ibom State, Ojeleye Joseph, who returned a misplaced purse containing cash and ATM cards.
And to further discuss the place of integrity in Nigeria's development and how more citizens can become persons of integrity, we are joined by the media manager at Luxterra Leadership Foundation, Dr. Inya Odi.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Very fine. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we also have Mr. Emmanuel Bosa. Mr. Emmanuel Bosa is the Program Director of Integrity Organization. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning all, and thanks for having me.
All right, let's get straight to it. It's a day we discuss integrity, and let's start from the youth corps member in Akwa Ibom State. Our integrity story of the day is that of a corps member serving in Akwa Ibom who, picked up a misplaced purse containing cash and other valuables and ensured that the owner got it back. Dr. Inya, let's start with you and your reaction to this act of integrity and how much our society needs people like this at a point like in time like this.
Well, I think for me, it's just one example out of so many others that may happen every day that we don't even hear about. Because I think innately, right, Nigerians are good people. And we actually want to project that goodness wherever it is that we find ourselves. Yes, the bad eggs are there. Yes, there are a lot of negative stories about us. But at the end of the day, we still have good people, and that's what this it's a guy, right?
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
That's what he has projected. The true Nigerian spirit of being able to live by the values, right? That we have, the values we grew up with, the values of telling the truth, of being honest, of not taking what does not belong to you, and all of that. These are the values that he has shown. And we do have a lot of other people who are trying, in spite of everything, against all odds, to live this life. I'm sure Emmanuel has so many examples, from his end as well. From our end, I mean, there's still so many examples because it's like, swimming against the tide, and it's a heavy tide coming towards the person, but then you're still swimming against it because you know that it is the right thing for the person to do. So I mean, his story is just amazing. But as I said before, it is one out of so many. There's so many unsung heroes all over the place, but I guess that's why we're here to talk about it and let people know that there are those heroes, but we celebrate him for doing that.
I agree with you. There are so many unsung heroes.
Of course. So let's come to Emmanuel Bosa. What will be your reaction and how much do we need acts like this as Nigeria?
Well, I think I certainly echo the sentiments of Doctor when I say that we should celebrate people like this. I think it reflects, as she rightly pointed out, the values that many of us do hold. We certainly, of course, live in a country where we are challenged by integrity. We're challenged by our value system. People value money more than they value people doing the right thing. So it's something we should definitely project and make sure that we set an example for the generations to come, that they understand that doing the right thing does pay in the end. Now, the fundamental challenge I think we face in this country for those who are in a position to do the right thing, because we see the examples in customs, we see the example in other institutions, public institutions, where people want to do the right thing, but they're swimming against the tide of risk, risk to well-being, risk to life, right? And when you're in a position where you cannot be the only one doing the right thing because the system would churn you out, will throw you out. So these are the people we need to speak to today as well, to let them know that there are ways in which you can do the right things, just like this gentleman did, against all odds, because I'm sure he needed money. I'm sure he needs money. But yet he thought his conscience, his conscience superseded the need to make money. They need to take easy money. And that is the message we need to pass around. It's what lessons do we learn from this? And how do you project that? For me, not just excluding the older groups, but the younger groups particularly, that you should primarily prioritize doing the right thing always.
I mean the younger generation, that the future of Nigeria, so to say. But Dr. Inya, you said something that struck me, because when you look at it very well, you'll be asking yourself, why did we have this fast decline of integrity, persons of integrity around? You say, this is how Nigerian spirit used to be, meaning that there's something went wrong somewhere. How did we get here? How did we decline so fast that people are after self than doing the right thing?
And I think it's not just about the Nigerian. It's a global phenomenon, really, where there's so much love for money. The greed has just taken over, and people just want to keep amassing and doing all of that, and are ready to do anything and everything to just get rich. Some might say maybe social media brought it up.
It's a contributor.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So some might say social media actually brought it up, because when you go on Instagram or go on social media or other social media platforms and you see people living large, living the life,
Brandy's big life.
Absolutely. You see see that and you're like, why can't I do that? What will stop me from doing that? So there's that high sense of competition. There's that high sense of people who are what's that word now? Not content. Yeah.
Mhm.
There's no contentment with where I am, with what I have, and you just want to have more and more and more and more and more and amass it so much more.
Okay.
I think that is one of the real factors that has led to this shift, because check it now, before social media, I'm in my late 40s now. We were the ones who did not have social media, so we played. We had a great time growing up, you know. But then when social media came in, it just seems things have changed, and you find people just living large, living the life, and they're posting about that, and other people who might not necessarily have that kind of life would want to have it against all odds. So they're pushing the narrative, they're doing all sorts of things, they're stealing, they're amassing. There's just so much going on just to ensure that I live that life, and they're not content with what they have anymore. So I think that's the shift for me.
That's the shift.
Yeah.
All right, so before I go to the question I was supposed to ask you, I want to ask you this. How worried are you about the ratio of persons of integrity to the corrupt ones?
That's a good question. How worried? I'm worried for, if I can be, let me be a Nigerian for a minute and not be a program director for integrity. I'm worried for the nation because I think we have mortgaged our value system, what it means to be a decent human being and a decent neighbor, at the altar of let's just get rich through any means necessary, so we can, quite frankly, in the Nigerian lingo, oppress our neighbor. So we need to get back to that human approach. To that, we talk about development and why is Nigeria not developing? And we keep accusing government of failures. But what is government? Who is government? Government is not something in the corner. It's every single one of us represented in different ways. So my worry for Nigeria is not so much that integrity is lacking, is that the institutions that are designed or should be designed to enforce integrity does not function well. Because the truth is that Nigerians as human beings are not different from any other human being anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
I once had a conversation with a friend of mine who's Belgian. And he said to me, when I meet Nigerians, they are some of the most exceptional people you would ever meet on the face of this earth. Highly intelligent, well-spoken, incredibly cerebral. Then why is it that when I look at the country and I look at the people, it doesn't match? And I said to him, it's a function, because I was also very naive and young then. And I said to him, it's a function of corruption. And he turned and said, no, I don't think it's a function of corruption. I think that's a popular opinion that people put out there.
Yeah.
It's a function of the fact that I know, him being Belgian, that if I commit a crime or do something counter to society in my country, I go to prison.
Absolutely.
There's an assurance that there's consequence for my actions. Whilst in your country, there is no consequence for action.
Impunity.
And the minute you address that challenge, that is when you begin to see things function well.
And,
So how do we begin?
impunity is more dreadful.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, we should fear impunity more than the corruption we talk about every day, because when you do something and know that I can go scot-free and nobody will get, the justice will not catch up with me, the law will not catch up with me.
Do you know what it is? Impunity, corruption is a function of impunity, right?
Right.
Because don't forget, because many do go to court, many are caught and they're taken to court, but the perversion of justice means that the corruption in the use of the judicial process. So impunity it doesn't exist as an entire individual thing, right?
So
it's part of a
it's
system.
an offshoot.
It's an offshoot of a corrupt system. Yes.
So, Emmanuel Bosa, how do we begin to fix this problem?
That's an excellent question. But before I answer that question, let me quickly add to what Doctor has said earlier. I want to add, social media is a key component of the commoditization and the mass spread of this pressure to belong. But I think also, let's look at the last 5 years, 6 years in this country particularly. Let's not look at any other country. The cost of living crisis has pushed people into dire straits. People are struggling to feed. I met someone in Lagos on my trip 2 weeks ago who said to me, and I was deeply shocked because I know what the person earned, said to me that he has not eaten meat in a year and he has 3 kids. And I asked myself the very important question, what is the nutrition? And people next to me are looking at me like, is this guy mad? He just says he cannot afford it. Forget nutrition. He's trying to even survive. Talk about forget nutrition. And that for me was incredibly humbling and also incredibly scary, because beyond the conversation around integrity, what does that do for crime? What does that do for national security when people are so hard up that they must do anything just to survive?
Yeah.
Now, let me answer your question more directly. The definition of integrity, which I would like to expand on, is doing things right, but doing the right things consistently. It's not just about one-off. So this young man, for instance, has done this great thing and we've celebrated him. Tomorrow, he shouldn't go and beat traffic lights.
Exactly.
Because that essentially brings his integrity into question.
Absolutely.
It's about the consistency of doing the right thing, knowing what the rules are. So what we need to do is, one, we need to discipline ourselves to understand that we have a responsibility to each other. Second, we need self-regulation. So, when you talk about integrity, it's a whole of system thing. It's not one side and the other side.
Yep.
Private sector has a role to play to make sure that they do not mistreat staff, they do not damage the environment and the communities in which they operate. Us as citizens must hold government accountable through citizen activism to make sure that when things go wrong, we stand up and speak. Why did the protests not work? The protests of last week until not work? Because there was no unified voice. We did not agree. We all had sectional interests, which we brought to the table, and the government understands that very well. So they play the house against itself. Now, the third thing is government must do its own through regulation and the enforcement of rules. Honestly, and with the political will to make sure that even those at the top, when they do something wrong, must go down for it.
Yes.
That is the system we need.
I agree with you. If you commit the crime, you do the time. If you
must.
don't get to that point, we are in trouble. Let me come to you, Doctor. If you just joined us, just to tell you, we are discussing integrity and how it can develop our nation. And I've been having Dr. Inyaude, who is the media manager at Luke Stella Leadership Foundation, and Emmanuel Bossa, program director, Integrity Organization. Dr. Inya, so looking at all this, I know that the Luke Stella, you've done a lot with integrity models out there, and speak to us about what you've done, how you've been able to, put together all these exceptional people together in one place, and how it's impacting on the society.
Well, I think for us, it's been a journey since 2019 or thereabout, 2018 into 2019, trying to look to say, okay, so fine. Yes, there's a dearth in integrity. There's a dearth in people who are doing right and living the right, or doing the right things and living a right life. But then we still have some. And this was highlighted in that year by Josephine Chibuzo. Now, Josephine was the lady who picked money at the airport, right, in Lagos. And she did that over and over and over again. I think about 5 times, she did that. And we're like, wait, if we have people like this, that means we can actually find them out. And they are actually returning whole sums. It's not just Naira. They're returning dollars. They're returning foreign or other foreign currency as well. And that spurred us into looking for them and looking for such people. And indeed, we found them. And people are testifying to say, yes, I know him. Yes, I know her. Yes, I can testify to say this person is one who lives out this word called integrity. It's not just, by mouth. It's also by their actions. It's by their lifestyle. It's in their homes.
Absolutely.
Because we talk to their family members as well. We talk to people around them in the workspace, for those who have worked, who have retired and all that. We speak to everyone around to say, what do you think about this person? And then they have come out to testify. So the person could either be a retired civil servant. It could be a present, working civil servant. They are also those who have been bankers. They are CSO individuals. We have a vulcanizer. Who has been spotlighted to say, look, this guy, there are things that this guy does that are completely away from. If somebody inflates your tire, let me just give an example with him. His name is Abubakar Baba. So if someone inflates your tire, you get to his place, he's like, this tire is too much now. Why did they do this and do that? And then he reduces it. Or if you get to his point, and this is a personal testimony for me and for so many other people, when you get to his point and he's trying to do your tire, another person comes in to say, please hurry up. I mean, let me just do my own now, while he still has another client there. Exactly. He's like, no, Oga, turn by turn now, just wait first, and then and then you have some people going away because he's not answering them, and they're ready to pay even much more right? And he says, no, I'm not interested in that. And these are constant, as Emmanuel says, it's a consistency.
It's not a flash
one-off.
on the pan.
It's not a one-off. You cannot be cheated when you get to Mr. Bubakar's point. And
Absolutely.
This is just one point. One of these, one of the models that we have. We have 48 models in all, and there was a public presentation of these models on May 21. This year. That was some months ago, and it was just an amazing thing. We have one who has been living a life of integrity since he was 17. That was 1957. In 1957, Professor Funsho Oluiton made a commitment to live a life of integrity all his life. He made that commitment. I mean, his story is in the book, is on our website and all of that. He made that commitment and has lived up to that commitment, by God's grace, I would say. Lived up to that commitment all his years. He's 83, 82 now, thereabout. And this is what he has known, and this is what he has done, and he has encouraged others to take a commitment to live a life of integrity, because he knows that it is possible. And that's the point. When you know that it is possible for you to do this and do it consistently and do it in every other aspect of your life, you would also want others to do the same. And the number of those who are taking the pledge, well, with Professor Louiton, some would say it's just a few people. But you see, where one person decides to change, and where one person decides to make that difference and take the pledge, I mean, it makes a difference all the way. So it was from him. We also started having an integrity pledge. And we renew that pledge with, we have it at our trainings, we have it in our church, we have it at different fora to say, it's a type of accountability check, right? To say, let's see how we're doing on this integrity scale. And the more you commit to it, the more you remind yourself of the tenets of integrity and the importance of living that life. So, I mean, there's so many stories, I'm telling you, so many stories.
The big takeaway is that all of us, we have something we can do.
Absolutely.
There's something we can do. We cannot just say we can't do it. Sometimes we pass the buck to people who are in the leadership position, saying they are the ones to show integrity. We can be doing our little bit, and from your accounts, what you've said here, it's obvious that when you are doing something consistently, no matter how little, people will fish you out. There's no hiding place for that goldfish out there. And that's why we want to encourage Nigerians today to, be up there and do the right thing, be upright in what you're doing, because you will you'll be making the generation to come after you better. There'll be something to look after. That's is a good place to also bring in our listeners so that those who can call in. I know that a lot of you out there, you are doing one good thing or the other when no one is seeing you. And we want you to call in and tell us your integrity story. And
all right,
let's just go on.
For you out there, please follow us on our social media platforms at Official Primorg. Primorg is spelled PRIMORG. Remember that we are streaming live on Facebook at Official Primorg.
And remember that the program is interactive, and you can call the WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 09022656167. That is 09022656167. This number is for messages only. Please begin to send your messages now to 09022656167. I want to find out how you are affected by the declining integrity in Nigeria. I mean, if it's not affecting you, then look around you very well. You find out that
it's affecting you in one way or the other.
Where do we start as a nation in changing the narrative? Should it be from the citizens or the leaders? That's another point. Do you think economic hardship, the current or the former we are going through, do you think hardship is impacting on citizens' integrity? How best can we tackle this? Do we have a call?
Yes.
Yeah, just go on. Let's see.
Hello.
Hello? Okay. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I want to comment on this topic that you proposed about good attitudes.
Okay.
All right, go on.
As a commitment of there was not to well. So let me just contribute what I understand.
Go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
Civil servant is working in the government office. We still government money. We will now go and do business. And we will be looking at someone that has good attitude. And looking at someone that is faithful. That someone that cannot steal his money. And whether he's stealing government's money to go and open business. So before we started for government, go to custom. If you want to bring a car come to this country, now you spend $1 million before this car will come to this country. And if it's few more than will enter government pockets. So we started from the leader.
Okay.
Hard for the subsidies. That's everybody is looking for it to survive.
But you know what they say, that we are the reflection of those our leaders and those big men in the public offices. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
So we are those leaders. They were once like you and I, and if they were not, we are not pushing them to be good people, or they are not good people. When they get there, it will only take time for them to get there and manifest. Don't you think so?
Sir, see, before there is from the leader. Before there is from the leader. So, okay, this one is a year ago. The good luck. Let me say, okay, Obasanjo, the Julie Buhari, those who are coming that street government will pursue them. They should start from there then.
Okay.
They should start from there. Then the other people run near left. They should start from there. It's from the government.
Okay.
They are not cautious. They are not cautious. I think actually that the government of the country.
Okay. I get you. You think that we should do top to bottom approach. We should.
They should start from the government. They should start from there. They should prosecute the people that pay money for the teaching center.
Then they will send the message.
We not get that question that if I do this, they will change me. If I do that, they will look for me.
I get you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
All right. He's clear. His own is that, punish the big guys, then the smaller ones or the lesser will just learn their lesson. Let me get your take on this before we continue. Your quick take.
I mean, I certainly agree. See, in the voice of the young man, you hear frustration, and it's frustration with the entire system. And there's a significant problem we have in this country. It's called a trust deficit. There's a significant trust deficit between the citizen and those that govern them. Yeah. So I don't disagree that government that there needs to be accountability at the highest level. I'll give you an example. The situation with Yahaya Bello of Kogi State is a clear example of that erosion of trust, where even if the fanfare around whether there was an arrest, there was going to be an arrest, not going to be, the whole thing with whether he was protected or not protected, all of those sorts of things that sends the wrong message to Nigerians. And we need to be very careful the optics of what we do as a people. And the message we send to our children about when something is perceived to have gone wrong or when something actually goes wrong, what happens. So what I would say to him is accountability needs to start from the top. And if you remember, I did mention government needs to enforce the rules. Rule of law needs to be reestablished. The role of the judiciary in making sure they do the right thing consistently is something. However, ultimately, I agree with your point, where citizen activism must be such that government knows that if they fail to do the right thing, they will be held accountable by those that they govern.
Lack of integrity, corruption in the society. The first caller talked about punishing the rich so that the poor will learn lesson. Comment and then have your take. Is an open floor for you. Opinion, comment, please.
I think Collins, is right. I mean, just like Emmanuel has said, getting leadership to lead the charge, to actually take charge, right? Look at Singapore, for example. Leadership was the one that changed everything. Lee Kuan Yew changed the whole thing to say, okay, so this is how our country should be run. This is how things should be done. And everybody fell in line. Everybody fell in place. And you can see that they're actually making great progress now, such that, there's no room for corruption. Where you are found to be guilty of anything, even if it's domestic violence, you are punished.
All right.
And
Let me get this caller.
Sure.
Hello, your name and where you're calling from? Okay, let's hear you.
Okay. They're talking about how can
We are talking about integrity of the citizens, and now we are asking. Our caller is saying leaders should be punished so that the followers and citizens will learn lesson. Where do you stand?
Yes, I agree with him because they said everything right and fair on leadership. And no country first in the world without good leadership. And one of the reasons why Nigeria has not progressed since 1950 or has not made any meaningful progress is because of the wrong leadership. So that's what it has. The other part of the world, when they make law does not have one eye. It's totally blind. I remember some years back, 2 years or 3 years ago, Benjamin Netanyahu was taken to court by the chief anti-corruption head of that country. He was the one who appointed him. But what did he charge him for? He said he collected cigarettes and wristwatch and all those things. You can imagine. We took him to court and they almost impeached him. What are we saying? In Nigeria, we have the anti-corruption agency. But they seem to be guided by the leadership. They go to where we wanted them to go. You understand? That's the problem.
Can I ask you a personal question as we wrap up in 30 seconds? How much are you doing on your own as a citizen to also uphold integrity? Because you know your children are seeing you as their role model.
Okay. At my own level, I can rate myself. I have done a whole lot. Didn't start in one day. I think it's something that you grow with and you uphold an ideology that me, I will not be part of anything that is shady. Are you getting me? You understand? So, at my own level, there was a time they asked me to do money to Belgium. I refused to do that way.
Okay.
And with the little business I'm doing too, I do with conscience. Are you getting me?
Yeah, I'm getting it.
I don't overcharge people and I don't take advantage of them, all those things. So if everything matters a lot, it goes beyond the
all right. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes. Let's get
Well, let's get
Okay.
let's come back to the
and just following up on what unfortunately I didn't get his name, but what he said and the question you asked him to say is just spot on, because as we're talking about leadership, I mean, I made the example of Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore and how things turned around for Singapore. But then we're so quick when we talk about leadership to look at political leadership. But in our homes, we're leaders. In the offices, we're leaders. In the marketplace, we're leaders. I mean, you are a leader wherever you are. So when we say everything rises and falls on leadership, what is the leadership style in your home?
We look at President Tinubu's
Exactly. What is the leadership style in your home, for instance? What kind of example are we giving our children at home of living the right values, living lives of integrity and honesty? I mean, are we telling our children to tell the landlord when he knocks on the door that we're sleeping while we're wide awake in our rooms? That seriously, as simple as it is, that is a test of integrity. And that is what we are teaching our children. So we're teaching our children that, okay, I mean, it's fine to lie. It's okay to tell the landlord that you're not home when you are in the room. So what exactly are we teaching? Because these are the values that go forward. You said it, Josie, when we started, that look, the leaders don't fall from the sky. They come from among us. And it is the lessons that they have learned among us they take up there. So if we don't teach them the right lessons while they're among us, when they become leaders, they exhibit whatever it is that we see. So I mean, it's a ripple effect kind of thing.
All right, let's take this call and come back. Hello, your name and where are you calling from?
I'm still calling back.
Okay, Collins, you let's give you 1 minute to speak.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys say that you need to start from wherever. Okay. What the leader make it hard for the citizens. Now, they don't protest. The people do not say anything concerning about the protest. Because that's why it's judicially primary. It's not there for the citizens. You know,
Collins.
I think
Collins.
the president's code.
Collins, are you still there with me?
Collins
Collins, are you with me?
Yeah, Collins is angry.
Collins,
frustrated,
yes.
and we understand. Yeah.
Yes. Let me just tell Collins that President Tinubu actually said something about the protest.
Yes, he did.
He may not have said what you want,
Exactly. But he spoke.
Mm-hmm. And we can only do our bit and keep them on their toes by holding them accountable, reminding them of their duties as leaders, that your responsibility as a president is to do X, Y, Z. We must know that, and we must tell them that. And I think that's how to engage.
Do you know? I mean, I certainly appreciate and I understand the genuine frustration and anger. But we have to be very constructive in our engagement as well. I find that when we take an adversarial position, i.e., we see the government as an enemy we need to fight, that never solves any problem. I started by saying that government is all of us. We need to find a way. So what the integrity organization, I know Luxter does the same thing, is how do you find constructive avenues of engaging with government in areas that matter?
Absolutely.
And that's when we talk about citizen activism. It's about citizens grouping themselves together on the issues that matter to them and deciding how do we constructively engage with government so that we can amplify the work of government to do its own part. Because don't forget, some of these government institutions are also compromised, not through the fault of their own, of the people that run those organizations, but through external forces, which we all know what that means. It's called state capture, right? Mm-hmm. And so we need to be very constructive in trying to understand the root causes of why integrity is a challenge in public life, in civic life. How do we, from the confines of our own environment, try to engage to build a different narrative? And let me go back to what Dr. said, because I think that's for me, that's the fundamental starting point. And I say that everywhere I go. The first line of defense against the decline we see in our country is the home. Mm-hmm. So I speak to every mother and I speak to every father, every uncle and aunt who's listening, every grandparent. The responsibility lies on you to set the example. Because let me give you an example. I know a family where the mother is well placed. Now, the children are in their late 20s, early 30s. The mother collects bribes in the tens of millions of naira and puts it in the account of the children. I'm sure all of us that are listening know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Now, what message are you sending to your child when you're holding a senior government position and money is ending up in the account of your children? Tomorrow, and the daughter, for instance, is not living up life. Right, is living the high life because tomorrow when she's not, her entire vision is to join that sort of institution so that she can continue from where her mother stopped. So we cannot absolve ourselves of this responsibility.
So we build a culture of corruption, impunity,
and it starts from the home. The home is the first. I think you gave a perfect example when the landlord calls and you tell them to lie. Let me tell you,
and
those that manage
that happens.
It's like it's normal.
Now let me tell you, we talk about centers of development. Every estate is a center of development. I live in an estate where we have had to fight to a standstill those that manage the estate because of mismanagement. Right. Now that's a small government, whether we like it or not. And that small government of civilians, not government people, has not even tried to do the right thing within the confines of a small estate of 70, 80 people. How do you expect the president to do the right thing when he knows that even you have no integrity? Why should he?
Big questions,
and that's really, really solid. I mean, still talking about the home, let me just give an example with my son. My son was about 6 or 7 thereabout, and we're driving along. I was taking him to school. He was sitting at the back, and I crossed the red light. And this is someone, we've been telling them, okay, red means, of course, he has been hearing red means stop, yellow means ready, green means go, and all. Crossed the red light, and he didn't say anything. But after some time, I just heard a small voice from the back. Mommy, was that light red? I was so ashamed of myself. So ashamed. And I just apologized to him. I said, look, I'm sorry that I was a bad example to you. And I will do my best not to do that again, not to be a bad example. And he went, okay, no problem. But it stayed with me. Imagine how many years it has been. But it stayed with me, to see that, okay, so these guys are actually watching. And that's the power of example.
Absolutely.
So we must show the right examples from top to bottom. I wish I had an opportunity to speak to Collins, seriously, because I would have asked him, who is his governor? Who is his local government chairman? How is he holding them accountable?
Yes.
Not look at the president only. Look a little closer home.
So the point is, before you blame President Tinubu of something, ask yourself, do you respect the very basic traffic rules as a starting point?
Absolutely.
If you respect that, then you can, at least the starting point is saying that at least you understand the importance of integrity.
Absolutely.
I think we will
Alright,
have
we have a
a
message,
a WhatsApp message.
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
Yes, this one says, "Good morning, I am Divine from Maraba. Most parents don't teach their children the way to go, so they are exposed to a life you don't wish outside. It's from family to the large society."
Absolutely.
I agree with you, but how can we address this? Let's start talking about how okay, there's another
Yes,
message.
there's another message.
Please
I
go
said,
on.
"Good morning, crew. This topic is quite interesting and will be great if anyone takes it serious. By so doing, the country we hope to see will come into existence. My take is the leadership should lead by example. A politician will be accused of something wrong, but let a common man do same thing. In less than an hour, he will be apprehended. Outside this country, leaders that do shady stuff are arrested. Some even step down from their position. But here in Nigeria, it's a different thing." Samuel from Gariki. Thank you very much for your messages.
All right, we are still talking about the system. The comment is about the system, and so let's talk about leaders, because the focus is turning on leaders, as one said that everything rises and falls with leadership. You know, and I'm wondering, Dr. Inya, how best can our leaders, the people in the government, promote integrity and better fight corruption? Because as much as we know, Nigeria is losing a whole lot in that direction because of that.
I think, we've talked about it over and over again. Emmanuel has highlighted amazing points of holding leaders to account. That's as citizens, holding leaders to account, and also mentioning the rule of law, as in, if someone does something, right? Just like Patrice Lumumba, who says, no, leave him, he's our thief, so he should not be punished. He's from our village. Now we get, I mean, if we leave those tribal and ethnic bigotry lines, if we let go of those lines and focus on what is a crime and let people be punished based on what they did, we would be making a headway. If leadership stood its ground, I have a friend, Majid Dahiru, who talks about class suicide and saying that the leadership has to commit class suicide to stand its ground, to say, look, what is wrong, and it must be punished, and it must be seen to be punished. It is not just about punishing, but then when people see that, these guys, they're getting serious, so things are getting a bit heated here, everybody will take dressing. And everybody.
Do you think there's a consensus of the elite to suppress integrity, promotion of integrity, which will for their incendiary gains?
Do we call it a consensus?
I would not call it. I would not agree. Do you know why? Because now they are living the consequence of whatever it is they think they have created, which is crime.
Are they?
The crime.
They are living the reality of it. Let me tell you.
Even though it's happening a bit more on those. I mean,
it affects all. It affects everyone. But what I'm saying is this: I don't believe. I won't go as far as to say there's a conspiracy. I would say we should be very careful what we wish for, even if we think we are profiting from it, because the consequences of it. Let me give you an example. When the whole Boko Haram thing started and it was affecting a particular group, everybody thought, oh, well, it's okay, it's not our problem. When they were the ones being killed, the narrative changed. So do not condone something because you are a beneficiary of that system, because the truth is the tables will turn on you very quickly. So that's how I answer that question.
So you remember that famous quote of "they came for the Jew"?
Absolutely right. Yes.
There's a consequence.
Initially, you talked about the in functionality means now the institution set up to fight corruption and how non-functional they've become over the years in your earlier submission. So how can we charge this current administration, to promote a more, society that we have people of integrity, more of it?
Well, let me start by saying this. I hope I did not misrepresent what I was trying to say. I don't believe our anti-corruption institutions are functional. I would say that they require support to be able to scale their capacity, to be able to reach, so that they can expand their reach. Whether it's through education and prevention work, whether it's through enforcement of rules and regulations for those that breach the law. So that's how I will posit that. But the opportunity we have here in terms of integrity goes back to, and I do think it's a leadership conversation, is that if we all recognize that we all in one way or the other hold a leadership position in this country. It doesn't matter whether you're the head of a classroom, you're a school teacher, you're a school headmistress, whether you're head of a home, whether you're head of a church, and abusing your group, whatever it is, you be head of an estate, there's a responsibility to always do the right thing. There must always be that response to do the right thing, and that must be the starting point. That recognition leads to the action of how do we do it, and how they're held accountable where there's a failure to do so.
Antinia, let's get to your final remarks, because you can talk about the government and the citizens. Your remarks as we wrap up, your advice.
I think for me, moving forward is getting to that point of naming and shaming. Naming, those who have upheld this, just like you did for the NYSC person, and just as we have done at Luxterra for the 48 models of integrity that we have across the country, to say that, look, where you see something good, praise it. I remember during that ceremony, a lot of people are like, they've never been recognized for anything. They've never been recognized for living a life of integrity, and they cherish that recognition so much. So being able to highlight and spotlight those people who actually live the life of integrity, in spite of the names they will be called Mumu, you'll be called all kinds of things. You don't need money, all sorts of things will come. But still go ahead against the tide. Just know that you are swimming against that tide, and keep at it, because you know that it's the right thing to do. I guess that's my last line. For the models, just go to our website. You can find the models, ltleadership.org.
Absolutely correct there. And it's been wonderful listening to you both. And I must tell you, for you listening to us out there, you cannot do without being a person of integrity. And some people are looking up to you to do the right thing, and they will copy you. This society is looking up to us to be great and greater. Thank you so much. This is how we'll be wrapping up the program. It's been a very robust conversation about integrity and development of Nigeria. Esther, we have to go.
All right, please visit our news website, primognews.org. That is primognews.org. For all the details of our reports and interviews, visit our website, www.primog.org, to get all the information about Primog.
And you can watch our videos on Primog TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. We appreciate our guest, the media manager at Luxterra Leadership Foundation, Dr. Inya Ode. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you, Primog, for bringing me home. I actually started broadcasting from Kiss FM in 2010. I'm so happy to be home.
It's a good feeling.
Yes, it is.
And we also have we also thank the program director of Integrity Organization, Mr. Emmanuel Bossa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you all for joining us today. Public Conscience has the support of the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us again here next week for another episode of Public Conscience, and remember to follow us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, at Official Primog. I am Esther Bassi.
And remember that birth registration and birth certificate are free if your child is under 18. Help stop the corruption in birth registration, and do not pay for birth certificate. Also remember that you can give information or hint about corrupt acts through our phone at 090-2265-6167 or info@primog.org. I am Chidozie Ogbonnaya. God bless Nigeria.